This is TJ Deal. I'm a managing director at Charles Aris. As many of you know, Charles Aris is an executive search firm that specializes in recruiting current and former investment bankers and current and former strategy consultants. And the lens by which our firm is most known is we operate the industry's largest corporate development and strategy recruiting practice. And I lead the corporate development side of that house. Which is largely head of corporate development roles for private equity portfolio companies. And this is the practice I started several years ago. It's gone from myself to now a team of about 15 that is doing around 80 M&A searches each year. And so each quarter, we set a number of strategic initiatives that we want to accomplish as a leadership team over the next 3 months. And we also spend a good amount of time just reviewing the previous quarter and looking for trends. And the purpose of this podcast in the next handful of minutes is to review our top 3 takeaways from the M&A hiring landscape that we saw during Q3 of this year. Number one, the biggest and most blatant, the market for hiring M&A talent at PE portfolio companies has picked up in a big way. As it would probably not surprise many of you, the back half of 2020, 2021, 2022, and the start of 2023 were record hiring periods in corp dev as M&A continues to become more and more of a central strategy at private equity portfolio companies. But with some of the challenging market conditions, as a practice, we've been bracing for a slower Q2, and we did see that dip. And we were also bracing for a slower Q3. Right? We've been hearing a lot of people saying Q4 is when we expect things to really pick back up. Well, it looks like things are starting about a quarter early, as Q3 will come out as our strongest Q3 ever and one of the strongest quarters in the history of this practice in terms of new search engagements, which leaves us optimistic as we roll into Q4 and especially for industries that had been a little bit slower, healthcare, manufacturing, where we're seeing major spikes. So that's one. Number two, more and more private equity firms continue to do corporate development hires for the very first time, even in the midst of market uncertainties. To give some context, in just this year alone, we have worked with 12 private equity firms that for the very first time in the history of the firm are hiring heads of M&A for their portfolio companies. Just under 20% of our searches so far this year have been with PE firms that are brand new to this type of hire. And then, of course, the remaining 80% being firms that, consistently look to bring in these people for their portfolio companies, the serial acquirers. This is a trend that we've seen, really over the last 5 years, probably, as more firms entered the space, but even more blatantly, probably in the last 3, is, it's become clear that head of M&A hires are no longer only for the big firms and the big portfolio companies or even the mid-sized one. In fact, we've done several searches this year for businesses with less than $75 million in revenue, which is definitely not something we would have said 3 years ago. The third and kind of final takeaway from Q3, sourcing is the name of the game. In a tough deal-making market, finding proprietary deals has never been more central, both for newer niche spaces, but also those that have seen consolidation. Significant sourcing experience, which we refer to as the hunter mentality, was a must-have in 75% of our new searches from Q3. That's double what we were seeing a year ago when kind of money was cheaper, so to speak. And this is something that we've seen, growing gradually over the years, but it's really coming into picture. And we suspect this will go from, market trend to market norm. We're even seeing this more at the private equity firm level. We are working with more and more private equity firms that are looking to beef up or build out a firm level business development team, looking for, platform deals and add-ons and ensuring the right quality of deal flow is being brought to the table. And while execution-oriented, diligence-oriented corporate development candidates are always going to have a market, that skill set will always be necessary, especially in high-volume industries, HVAC, insurance, vet. It's clear that sourcing expertise and mentality has taken a much more front and center role and will continue to be a determining factor in what candidate ultimately wins out in this process. Well, that's it for me in terms of big Q3 takeaways. Hope everyone has a great fall. Happy hunting. We'll talk again soon.